Between President Obama and President Zuma signals a change in tone perhaps and a possible breakthrough in what have been very tense trade discussions over meat exports so far.
Well, I think both sides are very keen to stress that this phone call perhaps helps reset the tone in what have been very acrimonious negotiations, discussions so far. It follows an interview given by President Zuma to the SABC earlier this week, in which he sent a very strong signal to Washington. He said that South Africans wouldn't tolerate being talked down to, that trade relations are very much a two-way street. And I think Washington, the U.S. administration certainly has heard that message, is very sensitive to allegations that it's taking a colonialist style approach. We have from the White House a statement that the phone call did take place. Whether that signals that Washington is about to back down, I doubt it, but there is, I think, a willingness to at least talk.
As you hinted there, President Zuma has said that South Africa doesn't respond well to ultimatums. Why has President Obama done just that, issued that ultimatum that was bound to annoy South Africa?
Well, I think, first of all, discussions over U.S. meat exports to South Africa have been going on a very long time, and those discussions have been very tense. The latest dispute has reached a head, and the question is, why now? There are trade experts, policy analysts here in Washington who I think perceptively have pointed out that President Obama may be trying to send the signal that he's an enforcer, that he is prepared to enforce U.S. trade agreements strictly. Of course, AGOA, the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, isn't technically a trade agreement, but there are voices on Capitol Hill who believe that South Africa should have been excluded in its latest overhaul, that South Africa has no place in AGOA because it's a rich and developed nation. So I think it's certainly true that those voices on Capitol Hill haven't gone away.
When you talk about voices on Capitol Hill, are we talking about the likes of people in Congress, for example?
That's right. I mean, I think you could speculate that President Obama's timing was very deliberate, and there is a wider trade agenda. The U.S., certainly the text of the TPP deal, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, is being scrutinized here in Washington. It's a very much a front-burner issue. That's the trade deal between the U.S. and other trading nations, mainly in Asia. And the fact that President Obama is now playing hardball with South Africa perhaps is a signal to those on Capitol Hill that he's not about to sell the U.S. down the river, as some on Capitol Hill would believe. And I think it's possible that South Africa was just simply caught in the crossfire of that domestic debate.
All right. I don't know if there's been word on any of the other issues that they've managed to discuss in that phone call.
I think the tone of the phone call, as you say, was, I mean, both sides, I think, very keen to stress that it was warm, that it was very broad-ranging. They discussed Burundi, they discussed the Middle East. The two leaders discussed the upcoming Paris Climate Change Summit. And I think that was a very deliberate attempt to say that this is not just about trade, it's about the bilateral relationship between the U.S. and South Africa, and that the U.S., Washington, the U.S. administration takes South Africa as a global player very seriously. So I think that that's probably why those broader issues were discussed.
All right, and that's where we'll leave it for this evening. Thank you very much to Nina Maria Potts, our correspondent reporting from Washington. Tabile?